Hey everyone, we're going to be talking about Zara, the Tempest of Chaos. She's a new character in Catharsis 2nd Edition. She was voted for by the backers. She may change before we manufacture the game, but I'll go over what we have for her now, and if it changes, I will redo the video. So let's go over her role card first. This is her artwork right here. And let's give her a little story as well. So her staff is like a slot machine. You can see the hands here, and whenever she activates an ability, it spins and there's going to be chaos effects. So there you go. And there's a setup card, but that just adds extra information in case you need it, so you don't have to refer to the rulebook all the time. Each time you activate an ability, roll a chaos die. Abilities effects activate trigger. Abilities effects activated trigger after the chaos roll. That might need some rewarding. Once per round, after rolling for the chaos effect, you may reroll one die. You may only do this once, and it must be the first ability you activate. Just talk about this always active. This is the chaos effects right here. This is where you're going to be rolling. So if I activated this ability, I would roll here. You have to roll together. So if you roll this doesn't get activated until the roll is complete. The flip is for the next ability you activate, roll an additional time for the chaos effect. After rolling both dice, give one die +1 and the other die -1. You may not use the -1 on a 1, and you may not use the +1 on a 6. So in the case you roll two ones, the plus you would have a in the case you roll a 1 and a 6, you would +1 the 1 to a 2, and the 6 would get -1 to a 5. In the case you roll two sixes, you would give -1 to one of the sixes, so you would get a 6 and a 5. You can't add +1 to the other 6, sadly, because it's already 6, but you have to still use the -1, and the same thing applies on the end of the 1. You would get a 2 and a 1 on two ones. So if you rolled two threes, it would be a 2 and a 4. Let's talk about some of her abilities now and go over these chaos effects. Let's just talk this one first. It's unique. Target an enemy, add a death counter to that enemy at 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. This depends on the number of players in the game. Death counters that enemy dies. If it's a boss, you need more. You may remove death counters at any time, each dealing 5 damage. So if you're fighting an enemy in solo that has like 30 health, this could be a route you want to go for. There are enemies that do have a lot of health, but you always have the option just to remove them to deal the 5 damage, and that's still great value for 3 dice, considering you may get to add 2 additional death counters, but you also, this ability has high risk, as if you target an enemy and you duplicate that enemy as current health, that would be really bad. But if you did use your flip effect on here and you've rolled 2 sixes, you would have a 5 and a 6, and enough to one-shot an enemy with 3 dice. But again, there's some pretty nasty effects on this one. So she only has one ability in all of her powers, so almost all of her powers have double costs for each ability, just to make it a little easier for her, since she only has 6 abilities across her playboard because of the chaos effects on the bottom. Yeah, let's go over Flames of Chaos. Deal 5 burn. If this burn triggers Incinerate, roll an additional time for the chaos effects roll. So the chaos effects down here is deal yourself 1 burn, deal yourself 1 damage, nothing happens, deal 1, 2, or 4 burn. So you can get some really good value out of this, but you run the risk of permanently giving yourself a burn, which is horrible. Might be one you want to use your passive for instead of your flip, but the ones are always going to be bad. Some are just worse. Chaotic Spin. Roll 3 additional times in the chaos effect for this ability. So you would roll 4 times for this ability. On 2 dice, you would roll 4 times. So you could, if you rolled 3 every time, you would deal 4 burn. If you rolled 1 every time, you would deal yourself 8 damage and pretty much kill yourself. So it will kind of balance out. Hopefully you don't roll 1s and 2s a lot on it, but it is a very luck-based character. It is what the backers wanted. And this one is rolled 2 additional times in the chaos effects, and the next build you activate in this combat could be great for this one. So you could also duplicate the enemy 3 times. Could be very interesting, huh? Calexia is Chaos, deal 10 damage. Calexia is a demon in Divine Wrath. She is also a Chaos Demon. She's the Queen of Chaos. She is the leader of the Chaos Demons, and she prefers controlled chaos. Zara does not like controlling chaos. She wants everything to be pure chaos and randomness. So you have a choice: deal 10 damage or deal 5 damage and roll the chaos effect twice for this ability. If you flipped, you could roll 3 times, and you get to plus and minus 1, 2 of those dice. So if you take this 5 damage and you roll, twice, if you hit the 6 both times, you would deal, a pretty good amount of damage, 19 damage on 4 dice. But it could also get worse for you. You could just, roll 3 or less both times and just deal less damage and taking the safe route of 10 plus rolling once. So this is definitely a gamble, and the average of the 10 damage is always going to be better unless you're a risk taker. Your passive does help because you can reroll one of the dice if it's the first ability you activate, which is great. So yeah, I think if it's the first ability you activate, this would be a good option. Deal 1 surge. Let's talk about surge counters. I wrote it on the card, but it will be in the rule book or on her setup card. Surge counters deal 1 damage each at the end of the player attack phase. When an enemy is defeated, move all surge to the next enemy. Sorry, I need to fix that. To the next enemy. So at 5 surge, deal 10 damage and remove all surge. So what would happen is if you have 4 surge on an enemy, it will constantly deal 4 damage at the end of the player attack phase, and then they would be set aside, and when the next enemy comes out, it would immediately move on to that enemy and deal 4 damage on that player attack phase. So if you just keep 4 out, you can constantly keep doing 4 damage, but they're expensive. You have to pay 2 dice just to get 1 surge. It does, yeah, and you run the risk of, the ability doesn't trigger, so surge goes on the player instead of enemy, and there's no way to remove surge unless, you get 5 onto a player and deal 10 damage to that player. But that would be death. So burn you can get rid of. She does have some abilities that get rid of burn, and so do other characters. And incinerate also gets rid of burn. So there are effects and abilities to get rid of burn, but surge, no. So this is definitely a risk you're going to take, and you might want to save your passive when you activate this ability. This is probably my favorite ability so far. We've made 12 of the 20 abilities so far. We're just going over 6 right now. Add a counter to this power. At 10 counters, replace this power. For the rest of the game, you deal 1 burn each time you roll a chaos die. If this power ever takes damage, replace it. So if you don't really want to build up this power, just take damage immediately and replace it. You don't have to deal with it. But the effect's pretty good. You do not gain the counter, you roll again, do not exhaust this power, gain +1 counter. Now, you would deal 1 burn every time you roll in the chaos effects. So for an ability like this, you roll 3 additional times. You roll 4 times on this, you would deal 4 burn just from this. But again, you have to invest 10 dice into this. You may have to exhaust it multiple times. You may not gain a counter sometimes. It'll take quite a while and a lot of rounds to do it, and a lot of morale spent because most of the time this is going to exhaust. But once you reach it, you have a huge, huge power spike. Okay, well, anyways, that is Zara, the Tempest of Chaos. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, please comment, and I hope you liked this character, and I hope we did justice for the backers. And last thing I do want to say is, originally she was going to have a 1 card that you roll like a d20 on, and yours 20 effects. I thought that was boring because you would always, one roll affecting every power. This way we could be unique with every power by them having 6 unique effects to that one ability instead of 20 effects for all of the abilities. So yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching, and please comment if you have questions. Bye.